Hello, people. Una good day and welcome back to the Freetongue Herald Una Voice of Reasoning. Today, on the 19th of November 2025, we'll take a quick listen to Dr. Samura Matthew Wilson Kamara, the present flag bearer of the All People's Congress APC party, as he being get for address Sierra Leoneans them pan the Islam particular program with them be all. In this in audio, it been talk about in fight for electoral justice and the part also don't come out since we start to the point also I did today. This na the one and the very few talk them with Dr. Samura Kamara don't come out for talk, you understand, over the last couple of months then now. Let me take with time and listen and not forget to tell me what you think about this in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. But most importantly, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. Stay tuned to the Free Tongue Herald on our voice of.
Yes, loud and clear, sir. Thank you very much for that wonderful intro. I wish I am all that you said about me. God bless us all. Thank you. Kindly allow me, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, to read my statement. Good evening to all of you. Tonight, we gather under a very challenging and timely purpose to exchange our ideas and perspectives on Sierra Leone's democracy at the crossroads. This is not merely a meeting. It is a summons to conscience. It is an assembly of minds that recognize the gravity of the unprecedented outcomes before, during, and days after of the June 2023 multi-tier elections in our beloved Sierra Leone. The impact on our democracy and the moral urgency for credible remedies that will restore trust, project rights, protect the human rights, and secure freedom and the franchise of every Sierra Leonean. I want to thank Islam Global for convening a truly global audience on a truly defining question. I sincerely appreciate each one of you for agreeing to participate or to follow the proceedings with keen interest. Your deep reflections for Sierra Leone will remain invaluable. In celebrating United Nations International Day for Tolerance, let me admonish everybody that tolerance is not the absence of standards. It is the courage to uphold truth without fear, to welcome inclusive diplomacy and dialogue without intimidation, and to insist calmly but very firmly that justice be done and be seen to be done. That is why I am here with you, privileged and humbled to listen and to learn. And that is why, together, we must continue to speak plainly and live by the truth, no matter how hurtful it might be. Ladies and gentlemen, given your extensive experience, we need to be assertive and precise since the stakes are very critical. As Sierra Leoneans, in particular, we must never stop or hesitate to interrogate the cracks in our 64-year democratic journey, to critically examine the pivotal impact of the 2023 election, and to set out a credible pathway forward, anchored on truth, on freedom, justice, and democratic imperatives. Alone being our individual and collective responsibility, we must commit ourselves to identify pathways that can move this one-time nation from uncertainty to stability, from public grievance to good, inclusive governance, and from to impactful, accountable, and equitable service delivery. From your discussions tonight, on this theme, we are confronted with three simple truths Firstly, that justice is the foundation of peace. Secondly, that freedom is the oxygen of democracy. And thirdly, that truth are a promise born in 1961 with independence that sovereignty would bring dignity, justice, and opportunity for every Sierra Leonean. I'm happy that I heard Ambassador Lee referencing Milton Magai, our first Prime Minister, as if we actually decided to do the same. In the words of Sir Milton Magai, after signing the Independence Protocol, said the aim of independence will certainly be to make our country a land worth living in, a land worth serving. But this can only be done by wholehearted service and hard work now. Our first Prime Minister went on to say, I quote, I ask you to deal fairly and honestly with your fellow men, to discourage lawlessness, and to strive actively for peace, friendship, and unity in our country. Unquote. Therefore, the test of our democracy is whether we could sustain these promises through the storms of power, conflict, and reform. For 64 years, our democratic journey, with the promise of self-rule and freedom, has been marked by both triumphs and tragedies. Our path has been anything but smooth. Our democracy has been tested repeatedly. We have witnessed moments of hope when the will of the people triumphed over the weight of history. Yet, we have also seen the slow corrosion of trust, where institutions meant to safeguard our democracy have instead been weakened by partisanship, fear, silence, and executive capture. Each democratic chapter has revealed existential cracks and fragile transitions that continue to challenge our aspirations for a truly representative system. The truth is that our democracy has cracked, not because Leoneans do not believe in it, but because too many of our leaders have stopped respecting democracy. They have exercised their power to manipulate the democratic system for personal gain and have accordingly failed to abide by its principles, practices, and values for general welfare. Instead of building discipline, fairness, and strong institutions, we have opted to build our democracy around networks of loyalty, political protection, and self-interest. When power becomes more important than principle, when truth becomes negotiable, and when the ballot becomes a weapon instead of a voice, then democracy stands at a crossroads. And finally, it crumples, thereby giving way to the exercise of power and authority without a human face. This is why, and this is where we are today. The June 24, 2023 multi-tier election stand as the pivotal moment in Sierra Leone's democratic journey. Reported turnout was impressively high at 83%, reflecting the people's enduring faith in the ballot box. Yet, this faith was seriously shaken as results were announced and winners proclaimed without a legitimate vote count. Domestic observers, international observers, the opposition, and the people raised serious concerns about transparency, irregularities, inconsistencies on vote counting, and the credibility in the entire electoral processes. The main opposition party, the All People's Congress, rejected the results, and mistrust deepened. The heavily rigged June 2023 election did not merely produce a foundational dispute. They have exposed seriously the fragility of our democratic fabric and its vulnerability to selfish political leadership. They have tested the integrity of our institutions, the courage of our citizens, and the commitment of our international partners. Clearly, when elections are disputed, the very foundations of political, economic, and social governance are shattered, and everything else falls apart. At the heart of Sierra Leone's democratic test lies one defining struggle: the fight for electoral justice. This is not a partisan struggle. It is a national obligation. For when elections cease to reflect the people's will, governance ceases to reflect the people's consent. And without consent, democracy becomes hollow. Electoral justice, therefore, is the cornerstone of political legitimacy, peace, and progress. It is the assurance that every vote counts, every citizen matters, and every result is anchored in truth. The events surrounding the June 2023 election of June 24 have underscored just how urgent the fight has become. They revealed not only procedural weaknesses, but a moral crisis in leadership and institutional accountability, courage, and conscience. This is why the internationally mediated inter-party dialogue between the APC and the FDC government, the resulting agreement for national unity, and the tripartite committee and its recommendations were not just administrative mechanisms. They were a moral necessity. They represent a collective recognition that something is fundamentally wrong with democratic governance, climaxed by the June 24, 2023 election events, and that we must, with honesty and courage, right the wrong. Implementing the outcomes of these mechanisms is not an act of concession. It is an act of restoration. That is, restoring the confidence of the people in their democracy, the credibility of our election, and the legitimacy of those who govern in their name. Distinguished participants, we must understand this moment in its depth. The question before us is not merely about who won or lost an election. It is about whether Sierra Leone will continue as a democracy guided by law, fairness, and truth, or drift toward a system governed by fear, manipulation, and impunity. It is from this foundation that we must begin our collective effort to move Sierra Leone forward, anchored in truth, guided by justice, and inspired by the courage to do what is right, not what is easy. The truth is that the cracks in our democratic foundation did not just appear overnight. They emerged and deepened gradually through complacency, through the personalization of power, through the politicization of institutions, and through the quiet erosion of accountability. Over time, we build systems that look democratic on paper. They are often compromised in practice. As we reflect on 64 years of independence, let us be humble enough to acknowledge our missteps, yet bold enough to correct them. Let us remember that democracy is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of fairness, not silence of dissent, but the protection of voice. Our generation, therefore, stands at a moral crossroad to either continue patching over the cracks or to repair the foundation once and for all. And that foundation must be built on truth, freedom, and justice, and democracy, These are principles that cannot be negotiated, postponed, or suppressed. Distinguished participants, the path before us is not one of despair, but one of determination. Sierra Leone's future will not be defined by the challenges of the moment, but by the courage with which we continue to confront them sustainably, fairly, and with strong determination and conviction. The question before us is not whether democracy can be restored, but whether we have the moral will to restore it now, faithfully, peacefully, and resolutely. As I reflect on our current reality, I do not see a failed state, but a nation yearning for renewal. Yes, Israeli renewal. I do not see a defeated people, but a resilient citizenry, ready to reclaim their rights to be governed through fairness and truth. The task ahead demands honesty, discipline, and the unity of purpose. Distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends of Sierra Leone, as I bring these reflections to a close, I invite us all to look before the horizon of today's uncertainties and imagine a Sierra Leone reborn, governed by truth, guided by justice, and strengthened by the democratic values we all hold dear. Sierra Leone's story is one of unfulfilled promises. Possessing resources, expertise, dedicated individuals, and ethical strength, we are equipped to reshape our democracy so that it not only lasts, but also serves as a source of inspiration. But for this transformation to take root, we must each play our parts with integrity, patience, and resolve. We must restore the credibility of our institutions and the sanctity of the vote. These are acts of patriotism and the way forward for a nation determined to reconcile, to reform, and to rise again. Let us remember that democracy is not a gift that others can perfect for us. It is a duty that we must perfect ourselves. Every generation of Sierra Leoneans must renew this covenant, ensuring that the struggles were not in vain. In these efforts, I reaffirm my unwavering commitment to peaceful democratic change, to vengeance, and to leadership that unites rather than divides. Sierra Leone's progress will not come from the noise of confrontation, the plane of consensus, not from rhetoric, but from results. To our international partners, I extend gratitude and principled support. The compelling fight for electoral justice now and electoral reform therefore in Sierra Leone. It is part of the broader global commitment to protect democracy wherever tested or challenged. To my fellow Sierra Leoneans, both at home and across the world, to our political leaders and leadership, to our media and social bloggers, to all civil society organizers, and to all our religious leaders, we cannot lose faith, the very ideals that define us. The spirit of resilience that saw us through our darkest days remains our greatest strength. Time to channel that spirit not into development, not into fear, but into freedom. The Lord's future is not predetermined. If action is today, tomorrow. I stand before you tonight, not as a man of fever, but as a messenger of peace. I believe, no matter how long it took while, just find a system, health the recognition, tolerance, dialogue, Therefore, move confident that no men can. What I will make clear, so I'm so we defend with you our right. And then man.
Doc, Doc, can you be a little bit louder? We've missed quite a chunk of what you're saying.
This struggle, so uncertain, is not without hope. It is a winnable fight, one that demands unity, one that demands courage, and one that demands our persistence. I call upon all who share my conviction to rally around your conscience, to remain steadfast in the pursuit of justice, and to continue pressing forward until the will of the people is restored. The path may be long, but the cause is just. With collective determination, Sierra Leone can reclaim its democratic integrity and secure a future built on fairness, accountability, and the true voice of its citizens. May our beloved country find peace, stability, and democratic renewal. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and may God bless us all.
Thank you so much.
Well, and you said the waiting Samura Kamara say, don't forget to say what you think about this in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. But most importantly, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. Stay tuned to the Free Tongue Herald on a Voice of Reason.